The night was silent. Through the broken window, only the sound of rain could be heard. Aarav sat alone in the dark, his eyes fixed on the cold glow of his computer screen. A single blinking notification. One new email. His hands trembled as he clicked it open. And there it was. Another rejection. 9th time, he whispered into the emptiness. 9 times, and still nothing. The dream he had poured his soul into, the dream of building his own company, was fading, dying a slow, painful death. The small room felt like it was closing in, the air thick and heavy. His laptop screen reflected a pair of tired eyes, once brimming with hope, now hollowed by pain. Outside, thunder echoed through the city. Inside, the storm in Aarav's heart was louder. He remembered his father's words, harsh but meant to be practical. "Aarav, stop wasting your time, you'll never make it. Get a real job." Those words stung more than any failure. He glanced around his tiny rented room, the cracked walls, the stack of unpaid bills, the notebooks filled with ideas that led nowhere. He had given it everything. He had tried everything he could, but every single door had slammed shut in his face. Aarav leaned back in his chair and closed his eyes. For a fleeting moment, he let himself think about giving up. "What's the point?" he whispered. "No one believes in me. Maybe I'm just not built for this." His gaze fell upon a photo on his desk. It was his mother, her warm smile forever captured, holding his small hand from a lifetime ago. He could almost hear her voice, a gentle memory from his childhood. "Beta, never stop. One day, all your hard work will make sense." Tears welled up, hot and heavy. He felt weak, broken, completely and utterly lost. But in that moment of absolute despair, something deep inside him refused to be extinguished. A tiny, defiant voice whispered in his heart, "Get up." He stood up slowly, walked to the cracked mirror and stared at his own reflection. The man looking back didn't seem strong. His face was gaunt, his eyes were tired, but deep within them a fire still burned. He spoke to himself, his voice low, but firm, a promise echoing in the quiet room. "Jab tak na safal ho, main rukunga nahi." Until I succeed, I will not stop. That one sentence struck his soul like a bolt of lightning. For the first time in months, he felt a surge of life, a flicker of the old fire. He turned back to his desk, grabbed his notebook and started writing. His mind was racing, but not with thoughts of failure. It was filled with lessons. He wrote down every mistake, every painful rejection, and every single reason he could improve. He made a promise to himself, a vow written in ink and determination. "From tomorrow, I start again. Not as a dreamer, but as a fighter." As the rain fell harder outside, Aarav's resolve grew stronger inside. He knew the road ahead was not going to be easy. He had no money, no support, and a track record of nothing but failure. But he had something far more powerful. He had belief. That night, sleep was a distant thought. He spent hours researching, learning, planning. He devoured motivational videos, read stories of those who had risen from the ashes, and took notes on every small detail that could give him an edge. Every rejection that once broke his spirit now became the fuel for his fight. By morning, the sun finally broke through the heavy clouds. The first light of a new day streamed into the room, falling upon the open pages of his notebook, now filled with goals, fresh ideas, and renewed hope. For the first time in what felt like an eternity, Aarav smiled. He stepped outside, took a deep, cleansing breath of the post-rain air and looked up at the sky. "Maybe," he said softly to himself, "this isn't the end. Maybe this is just the beginning." He had no idea what lay ahead. More failure, more pain, or perhaps finally, success. But one thing was crystal clear. He was ready to rise again. He was ready to fight again. Because now he lived by a new rule, a simple mantra for life. Jab tak na safal ho, rukna mana hai. Until you succeed, stopping is not allowed. And with that, Aarav walked toward a new day, not as a defeated man, but as a man who had just rediscovered his purpose. Days turned into weeks and weeks turned into months. But Aarav didn't stop. Every single morning he woke up with one mission: to make his dream a reality. He started small, pouring his energy into an online business he called DreamCart. The idea was simple but beautiful: a platform where people could buy unique handmade products directly from small artists. He wanted to help others chase their dreams just like he was chasing his. Night after night, he was a one-man army. He designed the website, meticulously wrote product descriptions, and messaged countless artists, inviting them to join his platform. He worked alone, often hungry and always tired, but fueled by a single powerful thing: hope. His friends, well, they didn't quite get it. "Bro, this will never work," one of them scoffed. But Aarav would just smile and reply, "It will. One day you'll see." He truly believed his hard work would pay off. But reality, as it often does, had a different plan. After 2 grueling months, he finally launched the website. He waited, his heart pounding with anticipation for the first order. 1 day passed, then 2. A whole week went by. The result? Nothing. Not a single sale. His phone, which he checked constantly, remained silent. His inbox was a digital ghost town. That familiar, gut-wrenching pain of rejection began to creep back in. He tried promoting DreamCart on social media, but his posts were met with indifference. Desperate, he dug into his savings, borrowing from the money he'd painstakingly earned from part-time jobs to run a few small online ads. The outcome? Still nothing. One night he logged into his bank account and saw a number that made his stomach drop. Almost zero. Every penny he had saved was gone. He just stared at the screen, a heavy weight pressing down on his chest, his eyes burning with unshed tears. He wanted to scream, but no sound would come out. He whispered to himself, Maybe my father was right. Maybe dreams aren't for people like me." But then, his gaze fell upon the wall in front of him, where he had scribbled a promise to himself in Hindi. "Jab tak na safal ho, rukna mana hai." Until you succeed, stopping is forbidden. He wiped his tears and stood up, a new fire igniting within him. "No," he said, his voice firm. "This isn't the end. This is my first lesson." That night, instead of crying, he opened a fresh notebook. He wrote down every single mistake he had made: the bad marketing, the poor design, the complete lack of market research. He began to study successful businesses, devouring information like he was starving. He realized he had all the passion in the world, but he had no plan. From that day forward, he made a new commitment: to learn. He started reading books about business strategy, watching online tutorials on digital marketing, and enrolling in free courses to understand sales and build his confidence. Every failure, every mistake, became his classroom. He stopped obsessing over the idea of overnight success and started focusing on daily improvement. When he woke up the next morning, something inside him had fundamentally changed. He was no longer looking for shortcuts. He was building himself, brick by brick, patiently. People around him noticed the change. He was quieter, no longer feeling the need to argue or explain his vision. He just smiled and worked. At night, he would write a single, powerful line in his diary. "Failure didn't destroy me. It trained me." He knew this was just the beginning. The world still doubted him, and his friends still thought he was crazy. But Aarav was becoming someone new, calm, focused, and unbreakable. One day, while scrolling through his phone, a quote stopped him in his tracks. "Winners are not those who never fail. They are those who never quit." He closed his phone, looked out the window, and said softly to the empty room, "I'll keep going, no matter how many times I fall." And that was the moment Aarav's true transformation began. He was no longer afraid of failure. He was learning to use it as fuel. The storm had knocked him down once, but this time he was standing stronger, because he finally understood a profound truth. The path to success always starts with failure. Months passed. Aarav worked hard every single day, learning, reading, practicing. But success still didn't come. Sometimes he stared at the sky and wondered, why is it taking so long? He had improved a lot, but the world didn't see it. There were no results to show. His friends had good jobs, new cars, and happy weekends. Aarav had only dreams and empty pockets. His mother watched him silently. She could see her son fighting battles that no one else understood. One evening she asked softly, "Son, when will all this work? You have been trying for so long." Aarav forced a smile and said, "Soon, Mom. Very soon." But deep inside, he didn't know if it ever would. He started working part-time in a small cafe to earn money. In the morning, he cleaned tables and served tea. At night, he studied and planned. He didn't tell anyone about his dream anymore. People had already stopped believing. Some customers at the cafe made fun of him. "Look at this guy," one said, laughing, "always lost in his thoughts." Another added, "He thinks he'll become something big. Poor boy." Aarav just smiled. He had learned not to answer because silence was now his strength, but even the strongest people have weak moments. Some nights when the cafe closed, he sat alone near the window. The streetlights flickered. He watched people going home, laughing, living their lives, and he whispered to himself, "What if I'm wrong? What if this dream is never meant to happen?" His hands trembled, his eyes filled with tears, but he wiped them quickly. He knew crying wouldn't help. Still, the pain inside his chest felt too heavy. He opened his old notebook, the one where he wrote his goals. The pages were full of words like hope, success, and never give up. But at that moment, they felt like lies. He wanted to give up. He really did. But then he saw something, a small line at the bottom of one page. It said, "The darkest night always comes before the sunrise." He read it again, and again. Slowly, a tear rolled down his cheek. But this time, it wasn't from pain. It was from realization. He whispered, "Maybe this is my darkest night. Maybe the sunrise is near." From that day, he started seeing things differently. He stopped expecting success overnight. He started focusing on small wins, one skill, one habit, one step at a time. At the cafe, during breaks, he wrote down new ideas in his small notebook. Even when he was tired, he didn't stop learning. He believed that consistency would become his weapon. People around him didn't notice, but something inside Aarav was changing. He was becoming quiet, disciplined, and emotionally strong. Every failure, every tear, every sleepless night, they were shaping him into someone powerful. And though no one could see it yet, the boy who once doubted himself was slowly turning into a man who could not be broken. One night, as he walked home from work, he looked up at the stars and said in a low voice, "I don't know when success will come, but I promise I'll still be standing when it does." And that promise, made under the silent sky, became the foundation for everything that came next. Aarav didn't know it, but life was about to bring him face to face with a stranger, someone who would completely change his journey. It was a cold winter morning. Aarav was at the cafe again, wiping tables and serving tea. His body was tired, but his mind was still fighting. He worked with quiet focus, no complaints, no excuses. Every day felt the same: work, study, repeat. But on that morning, something different happened. A new customer walked in. An old man with white hair, sharp eyes, and a calm smile. He looked like someone who had seen both success and failure in life. He ordered a cup of coffee and sat near the corner window. Aarav brought him the coffee. The old man smiled and asked, "You look lost in thoughts, son. Heavy mind, huh?" Aarav smiled politely. "Nothing like that, sir. Just tired from work." The old man chuckled. No, I can see it in your eyes. You are not just tired. You are searching for something." Aarav didn't answer. He didn't know why, but those words touched something deep inside him. The man continued, "Tell me, young man, what do you want from life?" For a few seconds, Aarav stayed silent. Then he said softly, "I want to build something of my own. I want to prove that even a small-town boy can make it big. But I keep failing." The old man nodded. "And after failing, what do you do?" Aarav looked down. "I try again, but sometimes I feel like giving up." The old man smiled kindly and said, "Good. That means you are still alive inside. You don't fail when you lose. You fail when you stop trying." Aarav looked up, his eyes wide. Something about the man's voice felt powerful. The man continued, "You think successful people never fall? They fall more times than anyone else. The only difference is they get up faster." Aarav stood silently, listening carefully. Every word from the old man felt like it was made for him. "Son," the man said, "pain is your teacher. Every time life breaks you, it's teaching you something new. The problem is most people quit before they learn the lesson." Aarav whispered, "Then what should I do?" The man smiled. "Simple. Keep going. Don't count your failures. Count your attempts, because every attempt brings you closer to your success." The cafe was silent for a moment. Only the sound of coffee cups and soft music filled the air. The old man finished his coffee, stood up, and handed Aarav a small note. On it was written, "The day you feel like quitting, remember why you started." Before Aarav could thank him, the man smiled and said, "See you at the top, son." And just like that, he left. Aarav stood frozen, holding the note tightly in his hand. He didn't even know the man's name, but his words hit him harder than anything he had ever heard before. That night, Aarav sat on his bed, reading the note again and again. Tears filled his eyes, not from sadness, but from hope. He whispered, "You don't fail when you lose. You fail when you stop trying." He repeated it until it became a part of him. Something inside him changed that night. The fire that had faded came back. The boy who was tired woke up again. He made a new promise to himself. "I will try again. I will learn. I will fight. I will not stop until I succeed." And from that day, Aarav started again. This time, not just with dreams, but with discipline, direction, and belief. He didn't know it yet, but this moment, this meeting, was the turning point of his life. The storm was not over, but for the first time, he wasn't afraid of it anymore. After meeting the old man, something inside Aarav changed forever. He was no longer just chasing success. He was becoming the kind of person who truly deserved it. The very next morning, he woke up before sunrise. The world was still quiet, still sleeping, but Aarav was wide awake, ready to rise. He looked at his reflection in the mirror and said softly, "No more excuses, no more fear. It's time to work." He built a new routine. His mornings were for running and exercise. His days were for his cafe job and intense business planning. And his nights were for learning, for building his dream all over again. His days were long and his nights were even longer. Sometimes he didn't sleep at all. But this time his mind was stronger than his tired body. He worked for 18 hours a day and not once did he complain. When he failed, he simply smiled. When he felt pain, he just worked harder. Aarav started building his new business idea from the ground up. He studied the market relentlessly, learned online marketing from scratch, and constantly improved his designs. He approached small vendors one by one, trying to convince them to trust him. It wasn't easy. Most people said no and closed the door on him, but every single rejection only made him tougher. He kept repeating the old man's words in his head. "You don't fail when you lose. You fail when you stop trying." One day, Aarav pitched his business idea to an investor. The man listened for 5 minutes and said coldly, "You're too small. Your idea won't work." Aarav just smiled, shook his hand, and left. As he walked out, he whispered to himself, "Maybe I'm small now, but not forever." He faced 20 rejections, then 30, then 50. Still, he didn't stop. Each no was like fuel for his fire. During his lunch breaks at the cafe, he'd be watching business videos. At night, when everyone else was fast asleep, he was sending emails to potential clients. He wasn't waiting for luck to find him. He was busy building his own. The people around him started to notice the change. He no longer looked weak or defeated. His eyes had a new focus. His voice had a quiet confidence. He didn't just talk about his dreams anymore. He was living them. His body was exhausted, but his soul was on fire. It felt like even failure had started to respect his persistence. And then one day it happened. His small business made its very first sale. Just one single order. But for Aarav, it was everything. He stared at the order confirmation on his screen and smiled like a child on his birthday. He whispered, "This is just the start." He ran to his mother, showed her the message, and said, "Ma, look, someone finally believes in my dream." Tears of joy filled her eyes. She hugged him tightly and said, "I always believed in you, Beta." That one order gave him a surge of new energy. He started working even harder. Within a few weeks, more small orders started trickling in. They weren't enough to make him rich, not even close, but they were proof. Proof that his dream was real. Every small success was a reminder that all those failures, all those sleepless nights were worth it. Of course, he still faced setbacks, late deliveries, angry customers, more sleepless nights. But now, he didn't break. He had learned to bend, not fall. And every single night before finally closing his eyes, he wrote one line in his diary. "Keep grinding. Keep believing. One day everything will make sense." The boy who once doubted his every move was now becoming unstoppable. His pain had become his strength. His failures had become his teachers. And his hard work, that had become his ultimate weapon. But just when things were finally starting to look bright, life decided to test him one more time. A storm was brewing, one that would shake the very foundation of everything he had built. Aarav didn't know it yet, but his next challenge would be his toughest battle ever. Life was finally moving in the right direction. Aarav's small business was slowly growing. Orders were coming in, customers were happy, and he was smiling again. For the first time in a long while, he felt like all his hard work was actually paying off. But success is never a straight road, is it? Just when things started looking bright, dark clouds gathered once more. One evening, Aarav came home after a long day of delivering packages. He opened his laptop to check on his business and froze. His website wasn't working. He refreshed the page again and again, but nothing changed. A blank screen stared back at him, mocking his efforts. His heart started racing. He frantically checked the system. All his files, his data, his customer records, all gone. Everything he had poured his soul into over the last year had just vanished in a matter of minutes. He immediately called his friend who helped him with the website. The reply came like a clap of thunder. "Aarav, I think your server got hacked. The data, it can't be recovered." For a few seconds, Aarav couldn't even breathe. It felt like the ground had just disappeared from under his feet. He whispered to himself, No, this can't be happening." But it was. Within days, his small business started to crumble. Orders were delayed, customers grew angry, and the investors who had shown interest pulled back. Everyone seemed to disappear again, just like before. He found himself sitting in his room, surrounded by silence and the bitter taste of failure once more. It was as if life had cruelly pushed him right back to the starting line. He looked at his mother's photo on the wall and said quietly, "I did everything right this time. Why me again?" He felt tired, broken, empty. All those sleepless nights, all that pain he had endured, it all felt completely wasted. For 2 whole days he didn't eat, didn't talk, didn't work. He just sat there in the dark, lost in a sea of his own thoughts. The same question echoed relentlessly in his mind. Should I just give up now? But on the 3rd day, as the sun's rays weakly pierced through his window, something happened. He noticed a small folded note that an old man had given him a long time ago. It was still pinned to the board near his desk. He picked it up and read the words slowly. "The day you feel like quitting, remember why you started." His eyes filled with tears. He whispered, "Yes, I remember. I started because I wanted to prove that even a nobody can become somebody." He stood up and walked to the mirror, looking at his reflection, just like he did on the very first day of his journey. His voice was calm but held a new, unbreakable power. "You can destroy my work, but you can't destroy my will. I will rebuild everything, stronger than before." He reopened his laptop and started again from zero. No fear, no doubt, no complaints. He spent countless nights rebuilding the website from scratch, fixing every error, calling every client, and personally apologizing for the delays. Some customers left, but a few stayed, because they trusted his honesty and saw his determination. Days turned into weeks, and weeks into months. And slowly, painstakingly, his business started to breathe again. It wasn't fast, and it certainly wasn't easy, but it was steady. This time he didn't chase speed, he chased strength. He was building something that no storm could ever destroy again. People were shocked to see him rise so quickly from the ashes. A friend asked him, "How do you keep going after losing everything?" Aarav just smiled and said, "Because I've already lost before. And I know, pain doesn't kill you, it builds you." Every night before sleeping, he would whisper the same line to himself. "Jab tak na safal ho, rukna mana hai." It means, until you succeed, stopping is forbidden. He had faced the storm and survived. He had lost everything, only to find the most important thing, himself. The boy who once cried in silence was now a man who fought in the fire. And deep inside, he knew his biggest victory was still waiting for him, just around the corner. 2 years passed. Aarav stood on the balcony of his new office watching the sunrise paint the sky. It was the same sun that once witnessed his failures, but now it shone brightly upon his success. The company he had painstakingly rebuilt from nothing was finally thriving. Orders were pouring in from every corner of the country. He now led a small, loyal, and passionate team. The very people who had once laughed at him now addressed him as Sir. But deep down, Aarav hadn't changed. He remained the same hard-working, humble man, forever marked by the memory of those painful nights. He understood a profound truth. Success isn't a final destination. It's a relentless journey of overcoming battles one after another. One morning, an email arrived that made him do a double take. An invitation to speak at a major business seminar. Him? The same boy who once served tea in a small cafe? He reread it, his heart pounding. It was real. A slow smile spread across his face as he closed his eyes, and a flood of memories washed over him. The rejections, the tears, the deafening silence, and the simple words that had become his lifeline. You don't fail when you lose. You fail when you stop trying. That evening, Aarav found himself on a grand stage for the first time in his life. The hall was packed. Camera flashes burst like stars. He took a deep, steadying breath and looked out at the sea of faces. He saw so many young people, their eyes filled with dreams and hope, just as his once were. He began to speak, his voice calm, yet powerful. I come from a small town. I had no money, no powerful connections, no fancy degree. All I had was a belief, and a promise I made to myself: I will not stop until I succeed. A hush fell over the audience. He could see tears welling up in some people's eyes. He continued, his voice resonating with hard-won wisdom. People will laugh at you. They will doubt you. They will call you crazy. But trust me, one day, those same people will clap for you. So just don't stop. Don't you dare give up. Because your struggle is what makes your story worth telling. He paused, letting the words sink in. His voice softened. There were days when I felt I had nothing left, not even a sliver of hope. But now I see that life gave me pain so I could discover my strength. Life broke me so I could rebuild myself stronger than before. The hall erupted in applause. Aarav smiled, not a smile of pride, but one of deep inner peace. After the event, as he was leaving, a young man ran up to him, his voice trembling with emotion. Sir, your story, it gave me hope. I was going to quit today, but now I won't. Aarav placed a comforting hand on the young man's shoulder. Good, he said gently. Promise yourself you'll never stop until you make it. The boy nodded, tears streaming down his face. Later that night, Aarav sat alone in his office, gazing at the stars through the large window. The same stars he had once looked at with anguish now twinkled like old, supportive friends. He whispered softly into the quiet room, I did it. Mom. I finally did it. He opened his old, worn-out notebook, the silent witness to his entire journey. On the very last page, he wrote a final entry. Dreams don't die. People do, the moment they stop believing. Keep going. Keep fighting. Never stop until you succeed. He closed the notebook and smiled. Outside, the city lights sparkled, mirroring his own dreams. Bright, alive, and endless. Because Aarav's story was never just about success. It was about faith, courage, and the unbreakable power of never giving up. And as his chapter reached a turning point, a new story began for every single person who heard his words and decided to rise again. Thank you so much for watching. If this story touched you, please give it a like and subscribe to our channel for more inspiration. Remember, your story is still being written.